I've had experiences that I can categorize more as to me, it seems more technological, or technology is behind it. But then I've also had the experiences where I go, this to me fits more in a spiritual or, whatever word you want to use there, energetic or, esoteric type experience.
All right, today on this episode of the Ghost City podcast, we actually have Kaleb Bench here with us from Skinwalker Ranch. For you guys that don't know, my name's Tim. I think most of you who are watching the show know me. Half you don't like me, the other half think I'm okay, and I'm okay with that. But today we're going to be talking with Kaleb about what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch. Him and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, and it turns out that I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity today to, I don't know if set the record straight is the right word, but a lot of you guys have questions about what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch and how things are working. And, Kaleb was expressing, on the show, they don't always have time to really go into that. I mean, because what is it, a 42-minute episode? So hopefully today we'll be able to get into some of the nitty-gritty of the stuff you guys have always been wondering about and understand truly what is going on at Skinwalker Ranch. So welcome to the show, Kaleb.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
No worries. I'm always happy to talk to fellow weirdos who are into the weirdo stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be honest, I think this is the first time we're interviewing somebody who has almost exclusive ties to a certain location, which is Skinwalker Ranch. And, for people out there who might not be familiar with what Skinwalker Ranch is or who you are, give us some details. What is this place?
Yeah, so Skinwalker Ranch is a location that has a long history of reported UAP activity or UFO sightings. Also, a lot of cryptid type interactions with people that are on the property or reports of cryptids running around, say, your Skinwalker, hence the name Skinwalker Ranch. Mm-hmm. Also, lots of reported poltergeist type activity. It covers the whole gambit, if you will, of just crazy experiences being reported by people who are on or near the property. The whole Uinta Basin actually has a very long history that we can actually show some historical dates going back to the 1800s from the earlier settlers and the army that was out here at that time. And then obviously you have the tribal history and the reports from that tradition going all the way back thousands of years. I've actually been to some pretty neat locations in the basin with a very good friend of mine who's actually Shoshone, and we've just gone out and exploring a little bit, and he's shown me and taught me a little bit because we've had some pretty neat conversations because I kind of tie back to, say, the Celtic and Nordic traditions because that's a lot of my ancestry, and doing that deep research into that, there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
And so just a neat conversation that you can have when you have that open mind to kind of go down that rabbit hole, if you will. But I'm Kaleb Bench, and I'm originally from Idaho, little farm kid up there. Yes, my family did potatoes.
Right. So that's a real thing. That's not just a marketing ploy for Idaho.
Yeah, my mom has a lot of she's a salesperson, and she actually has the contracts for, I want to say Five Guys was one of her big contracts, some pretty big names in the restaurant world that she actually is the one who supplies all those and gets them there. So nice. But I was in the military. I'm a U.S. Marine. Did that for 6 years while I was going to college. Did football and rugby and studied languages and history while in college. Stepped away when my dad ended up getting pretty terminal cancer and was running a family business at the time. So I left college, actually start making money and help with the family business. And that's when I ended up meeting my wife, who is from here. Okay. And that's how my connection into the ranch really comes in, because before that, I'm never really big into the world, if you will.
Right.
I wasn't never the big UFO guy or ghost guy or anything like that. It is, if you will, this kind of was thrust on me, and multiple of us on the team. So when my dad died, that's when I kind of had this come to Jesus moment, if you will, and had some things happen and where I found my faith. And that led me down some other roads of learning. And I think that's really what set me on the path that put me on Skinwalker.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of, looking back, it's kind of neat, just like a preparatory mindset,
Yeah.
if you will, to then being asked to come out onto Skinwalkers. My brother-in-law, Thomas Winterton, who's the ranch manager, was asked to...
Yeah. I was going to say, I met Thomas, what was it?
Yeah.
At Paracon. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one who called me to ask if I'd like to help do some security on the ranch. So my first day was Halloween 2017.
Okay. That's a hell of a day to start security at a spooky ranch, I bet. People trying to sneak in.
And prior to that, my knowledge of the ranch was very small. I'd heard it,
right,
or heard about some stories here and there, but nothing really stuck in my head. You know, it was kind of one of those things I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then coming onto the ranch, that's when Tom started telling me some of the experiences that he'd had since he'd been on for about a year and a half at that point. But, you know, nothing really happened that night, which was
a blessing and, let down maybe. So when we're talking about Skinwalker Ranch, like how big of a piece of property are we talking?
It's 512 acres.
Okay. Now, so 512 acres for everybody out there, that's almost a square mile, isn't it? Because I think 700 acres is roughly like kind of a square mile or something.
It's actually, depending on where you're at on the property, it's a little bit longer in some areas, and it is about a mile across in some of those locations, maybe a little bit further also.
Right. So the first thought that would pop into my head is like 512 acres. I mean, that's a lot of land, but at the same time, it's not a lot of land, like in the grand scheme of things. So what is it about this area that is causing all these phenomena, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, ghosts, skinwalkers, cryptids? How can all this be happening in 512 acres?
That's a great question.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's honestly why we're doing what we're doing with the television show, in conjunction with the scientific investigation.
Right.
Because initially Brandon, the owner, Brandon Fugel, he didn't want people to know he was actually the owner of the ranch when he bought it from Bigelow.
Okay. In
2016. Because he's always been, to my understanding, very interested in this topic. A lot of people are. But he, due to his business connections, did not want people to know he was a part or the owner of it because it could shed some negative light in some of his business dealings. But that's why why he approached it the way he did with bringing Erik on as his scientist and wanting to go through a scientific investigation side. Because it wasn't wanting to focus on woo-woo, if you will, or, some of the more esoteric topics. And even though, and that's where it's been really neat with Erik and Travis, is they have an open mind that will breach some of those topics or some of those different modalities, if you will. For example, we were always asked about remote viewing and kind of mediums and that kind of realm. But the problem with those is most of that type of modality, there's no actual proof of going, hey, we did A and B and got C.
Yeah, there's no repeatability.
And that's why they focus on the... Yeah.
And when you say science, one, I'm glad to hear that because I do think that, I know I irk a couple people every time I say this, but I do think that the paranormal community is kind of went a little bit too far into the woo-woo as you put it, and I know that everybody has their own beliefs and their own reasoning for coming up with those beliefs. So I try not to shit on any of them. So when you guys are saying you guys are doing science and scientific experiments, I'm sure we could probably spend 5 episodes talking about what you're doing, but in a nutshell, what is your approach to science? And when you say science, what exactly are you testing, or how are you going about that?
So the scientific method is essentially repeating experiments to confirm the data that you're getting.
Right.
And setting those controls to where when you did A, B happened, and you get C also, right?
Yeah.
And that's my understanding, and my experience is the last 8 years with helping and learning, because by no means I was a science person, still really not. And that's where I'm okay with exploring some of those other topics. But at the same time, my background in law enforcement and the military, I'm still very much categorize things,
right,
and try to identify the reason behind something, and that's really what we're trying to do. And that, and this kind of goes into that topic. We get a little bit of grief. Oh, you're always using rockets. You're always doing these things over and over again. Well, that's a scientific method.
Wait, you guys are using rockets?
Right.
Like, can I come visit? This sounds awesome. UFOs, cryptids, and rockets.
Yeah, lots and lots of rockets. Well, and that's one of those things, is a rocket is a form of kinetic energy. And a lot of what we're dealing with, we're testing different energy systems and getting crazy data. And we have these rockets that are very cheap to use, and they're providing a lot of data. And they've given us some of the best returns during the investigation over the last 9-10 years. From payloads that we're able to put on them, and then just behavior of these rockets, that when they're going into certain areas, they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. One of the craziest ones is, you see this in the show, and we shoot a rocket off in a location and it gets stuck in the air.
As in, it's just hanging there?
Yeah, it literally pauses in the air for 4 to 5 seconds. And it's doing this pendulum thing, and then it pauses and stops and hangs there for about 2 seconds, and then it keeps going.
All right. So when it comes to this rocket stuff and the data you're collecting, and even why you're launching these rockets, you're going to have to talk to me like I'm a dummy, because I think in this situation, I might actually be a dummy. So, I understand the idea of launching rockets. What are you hoping to figure out? I'm going to launch a rocket tomorrow. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
What are you even trying to figure out by launching a rocket?
Well, one of the first ideas with shooting the rocket was, we had the information from prior owners and other individuals on the ranch that if you do unique or kind of one-offs, you'll get reactions. And so the idea was, hey, let's shoot a rocket off and see what happens.
Okay.
And we shot the first rocket off, and we had a reaction that we were able to record, and it keeps happening.
Okay, so what was that reaction? What happened?
It was a UAP in the sky appeared.
Okay, and for everybody who doesn't know, UAP, it's unidentified
aerial phenomena.
Right.
Which, if anybody who knows Jay Stratton, he's the one who coined that term and created it, because he wanted to get away from the UFO term, because whenever you say UFO, everybody now instantly goes to little green men in a flying saucer, right? And so he wanted to create a new term to talk about these phenomena that are happening that we can't explain, or that we can't identify.
So, and as far as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but a UAP, you're not even suggesting that it is a craft or a ship of any kind necessarily. It could be a ball of light. It could be just any abnormal thing that's happening in the air, essentially. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So you're not setting off rockets and attracting little green men. It's just you set off rockets and strange shit just starts happening in the sky that you can't identify.
So, for instance, the season 7 is currently releasing, has been for the last couple of weeks. And last year, during a bunch of our rocket launches, we were having these little blue orbs or streaks of light that were going very near these rockets. And the parachute cord was being cut, but it was in midair, and these are little cardboard rockets, and that's 500-pound cord.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like a traditional cut, if you will. And it happened multiple times. So there was something interacting with these rockets and doing something we hadn't seen before. Mm-hmm. And we were taking these rockets apart and ensuring that they were ready to go. And a lot of them were brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is this? What are these lights flying across the sky and cutting these parachute cords?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys are using paracord, I mean, that's pretty strong material.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking, you see, if you pull, actually put those ropes under tension and pull them and break them, there's a certain way those fibers look.
Right.
Right. And if you go cut them with the scissor, there's a certain way they look, or if you burn them or whatever, but there was none of that traditional damage done to these cords. It was just nuts.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And this is happening in the sky above us, real time, to multiples of rockets in conjunction with these blue lights that are cutting across the sky and that look like little orbs, you know, and they're blue, and we caught multiple of them. And Erik created what he calls Metaframe, and that's how we're actually able to catch some of these events in the sky.
Okay.
Because they're happening so quick, and it's based off of light.
So the Metaframe, is it just like a high frame rate way of capturing, or like what is that?
Well, it's where I don't want to slaughter it, but it's detecting changes in the light spectrum, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing the system work in real time. So Erik will have it in one of our camera systems pointed in a certain direction, and any change in the light spectrum, near or far, it kind of paints this trail. So he's got all these amazing videos and pictures where you can see birds, you know, and you can see every movement that they're making as they're making their little trail across the camera.
Right.
If a tree moves at the slightest, you'll see little variations in the light spectrum, and but it's really neat. And he created that because of what we caught a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
In a high speed camera, and during some of our other experiments, and some of this other equipment that we've been using. And he was going, okay, how can we catch some of these events that we're not catching with the equipment we have? And so we created Metaframe. Nice. And it paid off.
I think that's one of the most fun things about, you know, I know not everything going on there is quote unquote paranormal. Well, I guess so, because paranormal is just beyond normal, right? But is the idea of like coming up with new ways to document what we're experiencing, because a lot of times, you know, to dumb it down, like it's easy to record you and I talking. We already have the tools for that. But how do you document something that you don't even know exists? Like that is such a fun aspect of this for me. I don't think you're gonna have an answer to this question. But what do you even think that is? Because like in my mind, like I would start to notice, you know, what you guys are noticing, right? Like these little blue lights or orbs going through the sky, the cords being cut, and I'd be like, okay, that's really weird. But what's the next step? Like, because I would imagine you guys probably have no idea what this is, or at least at the time when you first experienced it, you definitely did not have any idea what that is. How do you even start narrowing it down where you're like, okay, I think it could be this, I think it could be that? Because one, it's something that we don't know. Two, it sounds like it'd be, I wouldn't even know where to start. I guess that's what I'm getting at, is how do you guys figure out where you're going to start with these scientific experiments?
I think that's actually one of the really fun and cool things that you see with the television show is if you go back to season 1, and really pay attention, we were at that point of where do we even start? What are we even looking for?
Yeah.
Because when Erik came in, he wanted to really just do more of an observational study at that point. And based on some of the things that caught his attention, or some of the different circumstances and some of the different experiences that we reported back to him or that he had, that led him down to some of these tracks that you're seeing the evolution of that scientific investigation real time now.
Sure.
For instance, one of the first things Erik did was he went and got GPS counters, little cheap things that farmers will put on the cows' ears. And he put pairs of these in different locations of the ranch. And they're really long dwell time type GPSs. They're not really updating real time, every second or whatever. It was maybe every 20 minutes or something.
Okay.
But what he found was these GPSs would show that they would move up to a mile away. But these tags and both pairs would move a lot of times, or one would move and the other would stay. But these
they're
tags
not
were nailed into fence posts. A pair was nailed on the back deck of the command center. Two were located inside Homestead 2, and those ones were the pair that moved almost a mile and a half away to the south.
But they're not physically moving, obviously. They're just something's interacting with the signal between the transmitter and the receiver, essentially.
Yep. And that's what started leading us down this road of, well, what other equipment with GPS can we get out here and see what happens? And see if GPS in all these different systems reacts the same way, which, again, we found tons of this information. And that's where, again, one of the tools that we're using is Sky Elements and these drones that they come out. And that's where, when people really understand the information and what we've learned just from those drones,
right,
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's where tonight on the episode that's coming out, we found something in the data that, according to science, cannot happen.
Right. Yeah.
People are always going, why do they keep bringing these drones out? We've seen this before. Because you're not seeing, and you're probably not understanding all the data that we're getting from these and what we're measuring.
Yeah, because there's a part of me, even as we're talking, like I understand, obviously what you're saying and what you guys are doing, but there's almost like I don't see the goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as we're talking, like, because you guys are doing these experiments, you guys are trying to use scientific method to figure out what is going on here. But at the same time, even as you were like describing the GPS coordinates, like, seemingly moving and stuff, it's like, okay, that's cool. But like, what are you working towards? Like, what is it that you're trying to figure out? Because even with the drones, and I've seen a couple of episodes of the shows, actually quite a few. And I'm assuming it's because, TV's TV. It always kind of leaves you with this idea. It's like, okay, I understand that they're trying to figure out all these abnormal things that are happening on this property and, what's really going on here. But what is your real goal here? Like, because sometimes sometimes I get the feeling it's like you guys know that you're trying to figure something out, but and by the way, this is not an insult at all, but it's like you're still trying to figure out what it is you're trying to figure out.
And that's where, just again, using that as an example for the GPS. Thanks for kind of bringing it back to the question. What are we looking for?
Yeah, you're fine. I didn't do that on purpose, by the way. I suck as a podcast now. So like,
all good, no worries. We are trying to figure out what is causing it. So is that a near peer? Because is this some kind of technology that either our own government or again, a near peer has? And if that's it, why is it here or being used on Skinwalker Ranch? Is it non-human intelligence or NHI, right? What is causing that? And that's what we're trying to answer is this human caused or is this not human caused? Is this some kind of natural phenomena that science hasn't been able to explain or is new? And we just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And that's where we're that's the whole point, is going, okay, what's causing this? Is this, one of the jokes is this the old man on Scooby-Doo with the hiding behind the mask, right?
Right.
And we're trying to unmask him.
Yeah.
Or is this a legit skinwalker running around? Or is this some other, legend or cryptid that
yeah.
we're tracking, right? We are trying to find out what is causing this.
Yeah.
But that's where I'll put it this way, is I've had experiences that I can categorize more as to me, it seems more technological, or technology is behind it. But then I've also had the experiences where I go, this to me fits more in a spiritual or, whatever word you want to use there, energetic or, esoteric type experience. I've had a full gambit, and I kind of joke with people about the only things or experiences that I haven't had on the ranch yet is seeing a skinwalker or a little green man running around.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
It's interesting about that, especially from the UAP perspective, and you're talking about like, is this technology? Is this natural forces? Like you're still trying to figure out what that is. But, I think one of the things that is happening in the world today is the idea that more and more people are either accepting or becoming more and more open to the idea that there is a lot about the world that we do not understand. I mean, even what's going on with our government right now, like with the alien stuff. Like, I don't know what's true, what's not, and actually for years I was one of the people that's like, I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in, like, I do believe there's life out there. I think you'd be crazy not to, but I don't think that it's been here. But then I was like, well, maybe it's interdimensional, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And now you have the government, at least some people that are saying, no, we have like non-human intelligent life forms that we've collected. We have their bodies, and these whistleblowers are coming forward with all these, we've actually reverse engineered spacecraft, all this stuff. And honestly, I sit here wondering, like, I don't know what to believe. I mean, they seem like credible people, but if nothing else, I think that what all this is doing is making people start to understand that there is a lot more to this world that we don't understand. And I think you guys are just kind of dipping your toes in that a little bit,
Yeah, you're hitting on a couple different topics. One, I think because the West, especially the mindset of the West, the last 100 to 200 years has been so focused, say, on the religion of science, because that's what it is too.
Right.
Because you'll have these people who discount everything except what is considered accepted science, and they throw everything else out. Which I think isn't helping anybody. And I personally believe that's what's destroyed some people's ability to accept or question some of these more esoteric or these other modalities, if you will, these different topics. They won't even open their mind to it. And I think that is just as ignorant, if you will, as I think it's very damaging to that, to the ability of moving forward and actually asking good questions and doing good investigations and really finding out what's going on, right? Because for hundreds or thousands of years, humans all over the world were accepting and still do accept that there's things that we can't see as humans, and it's interacting with us. Science, and this is where there's a lot of crossovers where, so like, we're just energy, right? We're a more solid form of energy, but at the end of the day, we're still energy. And that's where I'm a very big person into Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins and these individuals that talk about, mastering your mind and your emotions.
Yeah.
And I very much do believe that what we're doing with the investigation, we're having those types of conversations. And that's been one of the parts of the investigation that is fun for us, because we talk about the what ifs when we're in the middle of experiments. In the last couple of years, those what ifs have turned into realities.
Yeah.
And we're going, did we somehow affect that? Which more and more science is going, yeah, there's the observer effect. We are interacting, and our consciousness is doing things to the experiment.
Yeah.
And lots of crossover.
Yeah.
And for me, again, I'm practicing my faith, and the books that I read, it talks about this type of stuff. You got to kind of have an open mind and actually see it. But it's there. It's been there for thousands of years.
Well, even as we make more advances, like, I know quantum physics, especially in our world, the paranormal, that word is thrown around way more than it should be. At least in my opinion, because half the time when people say like quantum physics, I don't really even think they know what they're talking about. But, I read a study the other day that these quantum physicists, was it the right word? Physicists? I think so. They were showing how particles that are happening or in motion today can actually change the past. And when I read that at first, I was like, that seems ridiculous. But I read about it and my feeble little mind was actually able to make sense of it. And then your mind starts spiraling in all these other possibilities. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, if it's possible that things are happening today that are changing the past, which on the surface seems insane, right? Like the past is done. How can you change what's already done? But they're proving that it can be done. Then you start reading all these other articles and you start realizing that, like I said before, there's just so much we don't understand that, maybe our minds were not capable of processing it at one time. Maybe, it's just the evolution of knowledge, right? The more we learn, the more we realize there is to learn. I don't know which one of those things are at play, but yeah, it's a terribly fun subject to get onto, this idea of, what is actually happening. I think that you guys are doing it the right way because I think at the same time, this is going to get me a little bit of trouble, but that's okay. I think there's a lot of people that are doing it the wrong way and they think that it's science. Like, for example, I'm going to pick on paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, for example. Not the show, just people that call themselves ghost hunters. They walk into an environment and they have a K2 meter and in their mind, they're doing science. Like, that's not science. Like, that's just an observation. And by the way, you don't even know what you're observing, but they think that they're approaching things from a scientific manner. And not to bloviate here, but the other thing that gets on my nerves is when people take things that they don't understand and they start layering it with more levels of things that they don't understand as an explanation for things. Like Bigfoot's a good example of this. And because I told you I was going to bring it up. So, by the way, I could be wrong, throwing that out there. I think Bigfoot is real, and I think it's just a biological creature. But then people start throwing things on top of, and by the way, that's hard enough to prove as it is, because if this is a real animal that's very elusive, I mean, there's already a big challenge ahead of us proving that this thing is real. But what people do is all of a sudden they say, oh, well, it seemed to disappear. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's because it's a apex predator who's really good at hiding and it knows its environment very well and it knows how to make itself invisible. But people go, well, no, it has invisibility cloaks and it moves in and out of portals and all these other things. And and I'm not saying that's wrong, but they're wrong, in my opinion. But what happens is, once again, you take these things that are already difficult to explain or paranormal, and instead of trying to approach it from a logical perspective of what you guys are doing, we want to understand what's going on here. They'll just start throwing things at it. Oh, well, it's going through portals. One, do you have any idea how much energy is required? And I looked into this to actually create a portal for an animal the size of a Bigfoot to walk through. There is no energy source on Earth that can do that, but somehow Bigfoot's doing it. And I guess it's just my way of ranting and giving you guys credit at the same time. I as somebody who's in this field, ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, a little bit, all this stuff, I really wish people would take the approach that you guys are taking more often. I realize not everybody can launch rockets, but that's pretty fucking cool. And I'd like to start launching rockets to see what happens. But, it is good that you guys are approaching it this way, because even if you don't know what you're after, eventually you're going to get something. And then when you do get that something, at least it's grounded in reality and not, well, Bigfoot seemed to disappear. He must be a master of quantum physics and be walking through portals, even though they don't know how to make fire. It's kind of backwards. But anyways.
Well, that's so we haven't really ever gone down the Bigfoot route on the ranch. And I told you, I told you that there's an interesting tie-in here because, so one of the experiences that I've had, and I over the last 8-9 years that I've been involved with on the ranch, we always get asked, what's our scariest moment? What's our most exciting moment? And it's really hard to choose. But one of my experiences that I've had on the ranch is Travis and I interacted with an object where I had my pistol out. I felt like we were being watched initially. We'll set the scene for you. We're
by
sitting
the
down
way,
at this-
Skinwalker Ranch is sounding more and more fun all the time. Like we
yeah.
got rockets, now we have guns. We have like
right, and I'll get to the Bigfoot stuff, but
yeah,
we essentially have this interaction with a rectangular object, is what I saw, and it had paneling on it. So when my gun light swept across it, and I centered on center mass. And was going through the thought process, I saw all this reflection. I saw what appeared to be two figures reflecting back at me, and I realized it was Travis and I's reflection off of whatever this was. And as I'm sitting here in that moment thinking, do I pull the trigger? Is this an actual threat to me? It disappears.
Okay.
I don't know if it closed in on itself or rotated, but Travis and I both had the distinct feeling that it ran up the mesa. It like went through a canal, went through all this sagebrush. I'm 6'2". I'm not small. I'm not a small person, and some of the sagebrush is taller than I am. And if something's running through that, you're going to hear it. There was no sound. We went through. There were no tracks. So, was it something messing with our mind, or was it some? And this is one of the experiences I had that I honestly put in more of a technological space of whatever this was some kind of technology. But we both had that distinct feeling that it went up the mesa, so we went tearing off, running after it. And I remember running across the bridge and Travis like grabbing me. Oh, we don't know what this is. Let's slow down.
Yeah.
And then I've seen a cloaked craft over the ranch. That's a whole nother story. But I had the same, very similar outline or very similar structure. But it reminded me, and the description of what we saw that night. 2 years later, there's this there's a conference here in Vernal called Phenomenon, and there was a Bigfoot group from Washington and Oregon that came down, and they showed a video to Erik, and they all, the way you can tell, as LEO, I do interviews, I talk with people, and you can tell when people believe or are telling you the truth, and there's those little things that you can see that that. And every one of this group, there's like 5 or 6 of them, we were out looking, and we're all out there in this location out in Oregon, Washington, up in the mountains somewhere. And they all see this giant creature running through the forest. And one of them had their camera and was like, yes, we got it. They go back and watch that footage. It's not a big 2-legged creature that's running through the forest. It's a cloaked object.
Okay.
Erik brings that to me, the video, has me watch it, and it goes, is this the same effect you saw on the craft and the thing you interacted with the night with Travis? And I was like, yes. Very much the same cloaking, light reflecting, light refracting, whatever you want to call it, effect.
Yeah. I've seen a couple videos like that too. And, not I don't think I would have saw the ones you have, and I definitely didn't see anything that happened at your ranch. But I've seen a couple like that, and like I will admit that they're strange. Like, because it does look like a figure moving through the woods. And what was that movie? Was it Terminator or Predator or something, where it kind of had Predator. Like that?
That's kind of what Travis and I actually kind of nicknamed that interaction that night was the predator night. But at the end of that video, it actually turns into an orb and flies away.
Yeah.
Or ball of light. And that was one of the things that caught Erik's attention, was because, like you were pointing out, there's those reports where people are watching this or interacting with a Bigfoot, and it turns into an orb of light, goes and zips off or something. So that made Erik go, okay, wait a minute, because some of the experiences and things that we're having happen on the ranch, we know that there's strange magnetic energies moving through the ranch. And if you get exposed to enough magnetic energy, it messes with your mind.
Yeah.
Erik or Travis loves telling a story where when he was in college, there were some individuals in their engineering department that had these giant magnets. and he says, I can neither confirm nor deny that there was maybe alcohol involved.
Well,
but these college students go walking in there and they put their head between those magnets. And that's when he, it sounded like they just went dumb, like just wiped their mind. And they're just like, get stuck between those magnets, and someone had to grab them and move them. And so we're seeing that same type of effect in people at times where, again, we're having people report that they are hearing voices or hearing things. I have had this happen to me when I was on Mesa doing a foot patrol one day, where I heard what I would swear was native ceremonial drums and chanting, singing. And there was no, there's no powwow going on over in Fort Duchesne. There's no explanation for me hearing that. So one, is that going on in my head? Or two, am I hearing that from an external source?
Right.
But then the other question is, okay, was I being exposed to some kind of radiation or some kind of energy that was making me think I saw that? And coming back to the Bigfoot thing, if there's, say, some kind of NHI or some kind of being or intelligence that we're interacting with, and say they have a lot more information than we do, what if they're keying on this deep-rooted DNA fear from humans 10,000 years ago when they're out there interacting with cave bears that are 15 feet freaking tall, or dealing with giant apes that are 10 feet tall, or mammoths, Yeah. So there's this deep-rooted fear that little ancestor of Kaleb was out running around dealing with, and going, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to stand here with my stone spear and fight this freaking cave bear. I'm running.
Yeah. Well, also in my mind, I also think, like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, going, using Bigfoot as the example, not that we have to, go on and on about that, but, let's say it did have the ability to, like, change into an orb and fly away and stuff like that, which I have to be honest with myself. I can't, when people have reports like that, I don't want to say, oh, well, that person's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about, because I wasn't there. I don't know what they're experiencing. But I truly believe that it's a just biological animal.
Well, and that's where, is it some kind of defense mechanism that they're using and messing with our minds like that, right? It's just something to think about, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where there's kind of this interesting tie in there, because Erik and Travis will tell you they're the first ones that don't give a damn about Bigfoot,
right?
But it's just, that's where it crosses over for us on the investigation, is talking about those types of questions and those going, what ifs, and trying to run that down to ground. So I would say a piece of equipment that we've used that kind of ties into the Bigfoot thing is Pete Kelsey brings his LIDAR systems out. And this is how we're painting different energies on the ranch, if you will, and different energetic signals or potential interference with the machines, because Pete Kelsey and the SLAM scanner that we use, he's trained me up on using a lot of this stuff. So a lot of times during our experiments, I'm helping him run the LIDAR systems and the SLAM scanners. You watch the episodes, I have this backpack on my back. That's what it's running, these light scans, essentially creating a 3D image of the ranch. We have hundreds of these scans, and he does this worldwide. And this is the only place well, there's one other location that he's gotten weird interference or caught something in the data, but it's very unique to the ranch. Pete, again, he's been all over the world. He's done the USS Texas. He's done Alcatraz. He gets brought in to go in and paint these areas, if you will, and create these 3D models for records. But he's getting these strange data in his scans on the ranch, and it's going, okay, is this showing us something that we're not seeing and not understanding, and it's because of the light interaction or messing with time, which is really crazy.
Yeah.
What is it? What's doing that? But that's what's been very cool. Again, when we brought him out in season 2, he's pointed us down an entire track of the investigation that really helped us paint what we're calling the bubble. And we were able to measure it this year, and so a lot of really cool information based on those technologies that we're bringing out. And it's very much tied to these different interactions or experiences that we're having. And we're going, okay, what's energy is going, doing this?
Well, the LIDAR thing, I know this is not common practice, but I did watch a video one time, and this was a couple of years ago before AI, so I don't think it was fake. They took a LIDAR system. I want to say it was, actually, I don't remember, but it was a huge haunted prison. And they essentially did what you were describing. Like I don't remember if it was a backpack or handheld or whatever, but they walked around the prison and kind of mapped, the prison. And lo and behold, and when they went back to look at the results, there were things in there that looked like people. Like I don't want to say ghosts or anything, but I guess maybe you could assume that those were ghosts. And they were not expecting that at all. They actually thought they were I think they were like somebody that was part of a show that they just wanted to get a good map of the prison so that as they were doing the investigation and they were getting people, like what looked like people, ghosts, like in this LIDAR scan.
And that's so like me hearing that, I know that in effect, because we'll get this in the scans, is what it's called ghosting, where you'll see figures in the scans, but we can identify that as, okay, that was that PA over there, or that was the producer over there, or, oh, that one was me standing by that truck in that scan.
Yeah.
But same thing is we do get those crazy identifiable results in areas that there shouldn't be anything there.
Yeah.
And at distances that the machine shouldn't be picking up.
Yeah.
So, and that again comes back to, okay, is this something messing with the timing of the machine? Because you're sending this laser out, it's supposed to hit, and there's the math formula of when it goes out, it hits, comes back to the receiver. But then if it's timing, then something's messing with the laser going out and making it think that it's out further than what it actually is coming back, or vice versa. So that's those questions is, I hear that and I go, okay, Mike, that's one of the things I first ask is, okay, can you identify if there was someone standing there and you get that ghosting in the person? Or is this a legit, no one was there, we walked by the room, this is how we did it, there was no one there.
Right. Yeah, that stuff's weird. And by the way, guys, I was going to say, maybe we need to get a LIDAR detector, LIDAR machine for when we go back to Oregon. Like, start looking for Bigfoot with LIDAR.
Right. Well, and then Pete, he was actually... Pete was also invited by Expedition Bigfoot to come do scans in areas where they're looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And he helped do a breakdown of some of the video using some of this technology that he's aware of, where they were able to really clean up that one video from the 60s.
Oh, the Patterson
and really
Gimlin
show
film?
that it was a female.
Yeah.
And so Pete, it's kind of fun. There's a little tie in there that he's helped with that investigation using LIDAR to help answer potentially some of his questions. So that's the fun part. There's so many interconnections and seeing the technology used in ways that was never really thought of, but it gets really interesting results.
Well, a lot of the times the technology doesn't exist because we don't even realize these are phenomena that exist. It's like, why would you create a piece of technology for detecting something that we don't even know happens? But then when you guys start seeing things like little blue lights and the cords cutting and all these other weird things, that's when it's like, okay, we don't have the technology to understand what that is. So now we have to figure out how to build the technology to understand what that is.
And that's been again, one of the things or circumstances I'll point to with the investigation in the television show is you see us go through that process
Yeah.
of going, hey, what can we bring out here to help us maybe narrow this down?
Mm-hmm.
And you see these new tools getting introduced, and better equipment or better technology. And again, Sky Elements is a great example of the program that they've created based on what is happening on the ranch. So their drone flights, because they're flying thousands of drone flights a month all over the U.S., and it's all about safety for them. You know, you can't have a 4-pound brick fall out of the sky and hit somebody.
Right. Oh,
Right.
that
And
takes the
so,
fun out of it. That's exactly what I'd use drones for.
Right. and that's where when you go back and watch in season 5, when we have 300 drones fall out of the air on top of us, Sky Elements is freaking out because when you understand the capabilities of their system and how it's designed, something made 300 drones think that they teleported a mile away instantaneously outside of their safety zones, and that's what sent a kill command for them to fall out of the sky on top of us.
Well, that goes back to the GPS thing, right? Because I think that they use GPS to understand their boundaries, right? The drones.
Yeah, and that was one of the topics very much was the GPS in those drones. And this was one of the topics that History Channel said they want to play, but we've told people we're going to talk about them in places like this. So Sky Elements was in the process of updating all their drones that year, where a lot of their older drone systems or individual drones only had the American and European GPS systems in them.
Okay.
They were going through updating those to have all 4 of the major GPS constellations, which included the Chinese and the Russian GPS systems. When they went back and looked at the information embedded in the drones and in the system after Dronegeddon, they found that every drone that fell out of the sky only had the American and European systems. They didn't have the redundancies of the Chinese and Russian systems. So the question was, does Russia and China know of something that we don't know or haven't accepted yet in the West, and harden their systems? So whatever it was that sent that kill command and interrupted with the system and messed with the time in the system, and also went into a pre-programmed flight and messed it up. What did that? Who did that?
Yeah.
And when you start thinking how dangerous that is in relation to all our weapon systems are based in GPS. All our defense systems are based in GPS. So if they can mess up
all your commercial
and make
airliners,
drones think they're half a mile away, what could they do to a missile?
Yeah. Or like I said, like commercial jets and, planes and stuff with hundreds of passengers, like that would be kind of scary. Like where, like the pilot would be like, where did Detroit go? Meanwhile, they're over the lake and can't find it.
And that's one of those things we're trying to figure out is this a who? Is this what that is doing that?
Well, I also think the other important question is why.
Exactly.
Like why is this happening? And by the way, are people doing this, or is this like one of the things I read about Skinwalker Ranch is like, and you can verify if this is true or not, but there's a lot of writings out there on the internet. We all know how that goes, where like they think like the geology in that area is very different, and somehow that's impacting the energy, whether it's GPS or which isn't energy, but you know what I mean, like impacting the GPS or can you shed some light onto that? Like, do you think that there's any evidence that Skinwalker Ranch is geologically different than other areas, and that might be playing a factor into what you guys are seeing?
So the Uinta Basin overall is unique in North America. When you look at in most of, I would say actually, when you go through and look at all other mountain ranges in the U.S., they are all north to south. The Uinta Mountains are east to west. Their
Right.
orientation is different than other areas in the country and in North America. And the basin is a big bowl, and Skinwalker Ranch is located in the center, smack dab in the center. And so one of the ideas that Travis actually brought forward was, is this a meteor or some kind of impact site? Because there's some elements that I guess they've found. I'm trying to remember what they are. It's been a couple of years since I've heard them. I want to say selenium, but we've found certain minerals on the ranch and in the area that kind of point to a possible impact site. And then that goes back to the drilling exercises that we're doing in the Mesa. We're pulling out fossilized aquatic material that was burned thousands of years ago, or millions of years ago. And then that leads us to finding this ceramic-like material that is basically a space-age ceramic that only in recent history, in the last 50 to 60 years, are we as humans creating. And that's where, if you go to the geological record, where we found, if you believe that, when you see where we pulled that ceramic out in the ranges of that mesa, it should be millions of years old.
Yeah, I read about that. I was just going to say, I read this just the other day when I was doing some research into Skinwalker Ranch and what you guys were doing. I actually thought that was very strange. Not that I'm the ultimate judge of strange or not, but because I mean, if you're a skeptic, you could say, oh, well, somebody at one point dug a deep hole there, right? Like, truly, like, as a skeptic, you could say that and then put that there. But one, why? But the fact that you guys found that, because I don't remember the exact numbers. I mean, maybe you do, but yeah, it was millions, like that layer of soil was millions of years old. And as far as I understood, based on the article, it was undisturbed. There was no sign of, people actually dug a hole and stuck it there. But somehow this gets stuck in a layer that's millions of years old, and it should not exist there.
Yeah, I want to say it's the Uinta layer, or the Uinta formation is what it's called, because there's the Duchesne and Uinta, and there's a couple other formations. Because I took some geology classes, and then talking with Chris Roberts, our archaeologist, he's helped me to remember and taught me a little bit. But that formation is like 50 million years old.
Yeah.
And so the depth at which we see it, or are finding these ceramic pieces, it's millions of years old. And there was, the whole reason why we're drilling where we're drilling is there's stories that there was a cave on the ranch.
Okay.
That people could walk into. And one of the stories is you could walk in there for hours and not reach the end of it.
All right.
I mean,
that doesn't sound unreasonable. That some caves you can do that,
Yeah.
Walk for a long time and never reach the end of it.
Right. And so, and for me, this is one of the things as a police officer, I go, when you look at the investigation too, there's a lot of individual cases, if you will, where in law enforcement, we call it, look at the totality of the circumstances and evidence, right? So you take everything as a whole and go, what's it pointing to? What's it really telling us? And for instance, with the cave, and why we're drilling where we're at, where we're getting this stuff, is we heard stories of these caves. We had people who 50, 40 years ago, when they were young kids or younger, reported to us saying, yeah, I've been in caves out there. I don't know where, I can't remember where they're at. And then we go to those locations, and you can tell that things have fallen. So there very well could have been. But then we had a security guard from the Bigelow era, Chris Bartell, tell us, I found one where there was a big bear trap in the cave that had been there since one of the older farmers. And looking around in the area, we've actually found possible remnants from maybe even the 1800s of potential mining equipment. And we're going, what?
All right.
And that goes into the potential Buffalo soldiers and the Irish infantry regiment that was out here when the Army was tasked with keeping the Utes on the reservation instead of letting them go back to Colorado.
Right.
But Chris is telling us that he found this potential caved in location. And so we went out there and he pointed to us where it was at, and we found this location. And that was where we're like, okay, let's see if we can find any potential cave opening. Or so we put smoke bombs and all sorts of snake cams through this area looking for any kind of cave system. And then we had James Keenan come on, and he had found potential underwater tunnels or tunnels filled with water coming from the high Uintas. And it appeared as if some of them are converging where the ranch is.
Okay.
And he pointed to a location that we call the triangle, going, I believe it's coming through here. And we hadn't told anybody at that point in time. That was an area of interest to us because of some of the things that we were finding. And then we do other scans and other data finding experiments, and it points to strange information coming through that area. And so we start, adding this all together, and then we start doing GPR. We start doing these actual drilling exercises, and we're pulling out bags of this flat metal that, according to an expert at the University of Utah, it was fired, and one side has a different elemental makeup than the other side. And so that is extremely technological.
Yeah.
When did humans start doing that? And it's very similar to the composition of metals found on space tiles and in space programs. So, what's going on there? But then it's inside of a mesa that hundreds of feet deep, that there's outside of, we had a drilling expert or a blasting expert from the oil field come out and say, yeah, I believe that this area was brought down.
Huh.
So was there a cave here? How deep did it go? And did something get placed there?
Well, it also, you're talking about like these weird materials. And then earlier you mentioned the fact that there might've been an asteroid or meteor, whichever one's the right word, hit that area. I mean, is it possible that some of this weird material was actually on the meteor itself and it made a big hole and that's why it's buried so deep? But then again, you'd have to prove that an asteroid actually hit there. So once again, you're left with more questions than you actually are answers if you wanted to assume that that might be a possibility,
Yeah. And that's what's been fun too, is we are getting answers. But I've been one that I believe if you get a good answer, that should raise more questions.
Yeah.
It's never, and people, I think this is kind of more of a society thing at this point, is everybody wants a one and done.
Yeah, of course. Why
not?
You
want the instant gratification, right? But that's not the scientific process. It is repeat.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting about what you guys are doing, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are getting answers to questions, but there is a part of me, it still feels like you guys don't even know what the ultimate question is yet. like the Bigfoot thing, not to go into that again, but like there's an endpoint we could probably get to that, right? Like,
right.
Is this a real animal or not? Maybe one day we can get to that point. But everything you're describing, it's like we're trying to figure something out, but we don't really know what we're trying to figure out at the same time. All we know is that there's weird shit that happens here. We come up with this technology, these tests, we run experiments, we bring in all these experts, and at the end of the day, some of those questions get answered, but there really is no the question that's getting answered.
Yeah.
So how difficult is it to work in an environment? I imagine it's fun as hell, but how difficult is it when, at least from my perspective, it seems like you guys don't even know the answer, or you guys don't even know the question that you're really asking yet. And that's not an insult. It just feels like
that is we feel like we're narrowing in on something.
Okay.
Yeah. We go through and do the experiments, and we feel like we get some answers, and we get maybe some kind of stable footing, but then something comes in, or another experiment happens, and some new information comes in, and it just throws us for a loop.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, there was one day where we all were just so done.
That was yesterday.
It was when we went out and answer me this. Have you heard that we found a direwolf? What's can be identified structurally one for one match from the jawbone as a direwolf.
Sure. Yeah.
They should be dead. They're extinct.
Was
according
it
to
fossilized, or was it like, like it's still a marrow
this
in
thing
it?
was when we found it in the river, it was rotten, nasty, disgusting. We all thought it was just a dog or big coyote or something. And we were like, well, the whole point of us coming down here was to take samples of whatever we find. So we cut the jawbone off, send it off to our biologist, and our biologist is freaking the fuck out for 2 weeks going, are you guys serious? And before, and that's what, so there's a whole situation here because we always get asked, why didn't you guys grab more of it? Because in the moment we were going, this is disgusting. This is just a dog.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then we find out 2 weeks later, even though they make it look like it was only a day, but it was 2 weeks later that the biologist goes, let me walk you through why I believe this is what it is. He walks us through, there's a structure in everybody's jawbone, especially canines, and crocodiles are a great example of this. And that was the examples he showed us was crocodiles and alligators, and then showed us a coyote, a eastern gray wolf, which is in the U.S., and a fossilized direwolf jawbone. And what we found was a 1-for-1 match to the direwolf.
Right.
And he's going, I put these things together in one of my jobs. If you gave this to me cleaned up, because he's the one that had to clean it and get all the meat off of it. And he said, if you had brought this to me and gave me no other information and said, identify it, he'd have told you it was a direwolf, a juvenile direwolf.
Well, I mean, assuming that he's correct, which I have no ability to say he is or not. I mean, that just goes to show, once again, there's a lot of shit out there that we don't know about. I mean, even just the idea of undiscovered animal species. I mean, we're discovering animal species all the time. Everybody thinks that we found everything. We have. Well, there's far from it.
There's areas in the mountains in Idaho, in Canada, in these very remote areas that I doubt people go walk through. Of course. Maybe one person will hike in there maybe every couple years. And, here's a great example. People are driving on the road all day, every day, and they ignore shit all the time.
Yeah.
I will tell you this as a law enforcement officer. I don't care how many signs you put out there. There are people who do not see them.
I usually don't even see the road half the time. It's like that,
right?
That thing you do where you leave your house and you arrive, but you don't actually remember how you got there. You just know you did.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm going, if there's some crazy animal running around out there that's intelligent and smart and doesn't want you to see it, you're not going to see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's known species that do that. Like in your guys' neck of the woods, I've noticed, I've read some papers about jaguars, actually, about how they're actually way more common in your area.
I have a video on my phone from 3 years ago in Roosevelt, Utah, about a mile from my house. I'm pointing right at the direction, is a jaguar, a black jaguar. Yeah. And I sent that to our biologist, and that's a jaguar.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be up here.
Yeah.
He said the last time they were in this area in northern Utah was in the Ice Age.
Yeah, but they're there. I mean, we and this happens all the time. So it's like, okay, if known animals can do that, how is it impossible that unknown animals aren't doing the same thing?
Right. And this is, again, that situation with the direwolf. There's a whole series of events that happen before we even find that carcass. We have a cow that dies in October the previous year, and it's getting scavenged on. But even though its death was pretty weird, like cows, when they die, they don't just drop. It was like something shot this animal and just dropped.
Yeah.
And its feet were up underneath it. They don't sit down like that. And we bring Ben out after it's been scavenged, and he takes a rib bone because it's a tooth mark. Something bit through that rib bone. And he takes it and people thought, oh, could it be a bullet? No, it was. You could tell if it was a bullet, because it would shatter the rib bone. This was a tooth. Ben can identify it as a tooth that went through this rib bone. He takes it back to his area, his lab, and he takes bear skulls, wolf skulls, dog skulls, cat skulls, like mountain lions, and even a lion from Africa. He's got and tigers.
Right.
The only tooth that matched that rib bone was a direwolf. And it was the only tooth when he put it in the press to go through and testing this on another rib bone. The direwolf tooth was the only one that withstood going through the bone the way it and mimicked the way it happened in that other rib bone.
Yeah.
And then you go through, and a couple weeks after that, I got a message from my friend Don, who was out. He was a fire chief for the BIA out here, and he recorded howling 3 miles south of the ranch.
Yeah.
And sends me that recording. I didn't really listen to it that night he sent it to me. It was late. I was pretty much smoked from filming that day. And I just remember seeing the text, and he said, if you're outside of your truck at night, don't get too far from it.
Guys, I think we found our new documentary subject, direwolves.
Right? And I'm going, okay, Don, whatever. And a week later is when we find that direwolf in the river.
Yeah.
That juvenile.
Yeah, and the state of decay that you talked about, I mean, that's entirely possible in a week's time in water. Like it sounds like, you know.
And so I'm going, look at this line of evidence that we just picked up. It's not just we found this sitting in the river. There were other markers that, looking back, I was like, holy shit.
By the way, I did not have direwolf on the bingo card for this episode.
No.
Like, I had no idea.
None of us did.
Yeah, no idea. Like,
and we were all kicking ourselves in the butt, you know, when Ben was like, you need to go out there and see if you can find the skull, because if we had taken the full skull, that would have been the smoking gun of there's no questions or not, because of the sagittal crest. He'd been able to go, this is the direwolf. We have a picture of it where you can see the canines. When we pull the head up out of the water, these massive canines are at this crazy angle, and I tried to catch them. They all fell out of the dang skull. But Ben, looking at that picture, was like, that's a direwolf.
Yeah.
He's like, that's how their canines are, is they sit in this crossed section kind of thing, because when they bite, think about what they're hunting. These giant 10,000 pound buffalo and these crazy ice age animals, their teeth and their head, they're just nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if something like that does exist, I mean, it would have to be a low population density because of what you just described. Like, you know, at some point they run out of things to eat. Therefore, the population of the predator would have to be minuscule to an extent, you know, enough to keep the genetic variation going in the population. But I mean, an animal like that, you know, I don't know if direwolves exist or not. But based on what you found, I mean, that's pretty compelling. Now, most people are going to say there's no way that animal could exist. You know, where is it? Where is it hiding? All this other stuff. But if there's not many of them, animals can hide unbelievably well. I think as humans, we get really cocky about our abilities. Like, oh yeah, we should be able to find them. Like, no, not really.
Well, that's the other parts of this too, is and being law enforcement, I know DNR guys, or the Division of Natural Resources here in Utah. And I saw 5 massive wolves 10 years ago when I was in the oil field, when I first moved down here. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And because all official records say that there's no wolves in Utah. And in the last year or two, they finally go, yeah, there's a pack up on this mountain over here.
Yeah.
But for years, people in the state of Utah were reporting seeing wolves. And so I'm going, is there a pack that has been running around in Utah and Montana, wherever, because they range.
Oh yeah, sure.
Far away, you know, especially depending on food.
Yeah.
And so I went to my one DNR friend when the episode was going to come out with the direwolf. I was like, hey dude, this is what we found last year. And he was like, no, there's no.
Yeah.
And I'm okay.
Well, you can't really trust those guys. And I mean that in a nice way. Like, so I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and we have mountain lions in Pennsylvania. I don't care what anybody fucking says. They're there. Half the people I know have seen them. They are absolutely breeding. But if you ask, the Fish and Game Commission up there, they're not here. And you look at them, and you're like, how can you say that to me with a straight face? Like literally half the people I know have seen one. And there's nothing there it's not like we're seeing a deer and like confusing it with a mountain lion. It's a fucking mountain lion. Well, no, they're not here.
What got me too was my friend, it was like 6 or 8 months later, I happened to see him again at the gas station. He's like, yeah, I have to tell you, like, I did get a call one day where someone said they shot a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up there, found the blood tracks, or the blood trail, followed it and everything, and looks up and there's a big black wolf staring at him.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually have seen videos, and I want to say this was anything nowadays I almost have to discount as AI, right? Like you almost have to. But this was long enough ago, I believe, that there's videos of these huge wolves. I want to say Montana, maybe, but even I did not grow up around wolves. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I was lucky enough to see them once in the wild in Wisconsin. But other than that, so I don't have like a lot to gauge this off of. But this video, I mean, this wolf was a fucking monster, like abnormally large. Like even for somebody who doesn't know wolves that well, by looking at them,
Well, so this is my knowledge and information of wolves is growing up in Southeast Idaho, Yellowstone National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Is literally an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where I grew up. My family has a cabin up in that area, has had one up there since like 1983.
Mm-hmm.
When they introduced wolves in 1996 into Yellowstone, they were the big bastards from up north.
Right.
Okay, these were not the little 150-pound wolves that were here that our ancestors killed when they came out in the 1800s and were like, either you have wolves or you have people,
Mm-hmm.
And within a year or two, there were reports of those wolves in Southeast Idaho.
Yeah.
But of course, the government, no, those wolves would never leave Yellowstone. We can confirm that. But we had people go missing in the mountains of Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And those wolves have ranged into Idaho, into Wyoming, into Utah.
Yeah.
And you were kind of hitting on the genetics thing of the direwolf. We asked Ben if that could be a genetic variation, if that could be a mutation, if that could be any of these potential explanations. And Ben was, no, you cannot get this one-for-one match.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we did the DNA test, my understanding was you test against known samples.
Sure. Yep.
90% of that sample that we sent off from one of the teeth came back as unknown.
Yeah.
So either the two options is either it's corrupted
mm-hmm.
or we don't have a match to what 90% of that DNA is.
Yeah. Well,
and the other 10% was coming back as the two closest relatives was the Eurasian gray wolf and some other red wolf or something from Europe.
Right.
Those aren't even in the U.S.
Yeah. Well,
and that was the largest DNA cluster that matched.
Well, what's frustrating about that is, people come back and say, well, you can't prove it's a direwolf then because the DNA did not come back as direwolf. And I hate
they're completely disregarding the fact that you then go back to the physical evidence that you have.
Mm-hmm.
If the other testing is inconclusive and you have an expert in fossils
mm-hmm.
who is identifying and can show you 300 different direwolf skulls and they all match one for
mm-hmm.
one with that jawbone that we pulled out. Yeah. And they're completely disregarding that. And it's like,
well, they do that on, and I don't even realize that those people are doing this on purpose, but there is no direwolf DNA. So, as far as I know, so it is impossible that sample you turned in came back as direwolf DNA. Not trying to purposely bring Bigfoot into this all the time, but we don't have Bigfoot DNA that we know of because there's no body like that, like a physical body that we've taken that from where we can say conclusively this is Bigfoot DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But what researchers sometimes do get is unknown primate DNA. But the skeptics will say, well, that's not Bigfoot DNA. I mean, maybe you're right, but then again, how do you know?
Well, it's the same thing. Again, you have to test against known DNA samples.
Yeah.
And so and that's my understanding is when you have 90% come back and it's inconclusive, what are your two options?
Right.
It's either what you're thinking it is, or potentially it's corrupted and you can't test.
Yeah.
And it is unknown.
I feel like we need to go find direwolves now, guys. Like maybe we'll pause on Bigfoot for a moment. Go to look for direwolves. I don't know. I don't know. That sounds fun as shit. By the way, the biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about was like the whole UFO stuff, UAPs and all that stuff. Shit, we haven't even got to that yet. We're already an hour and a half in. Might have to come back for part 2 at a later date. But not trying to cut the direwolf conversation short, but I know a lot of people are going to watch this episode specifically for UAPs and all that kind of stuff that you have going on there. So let's get into that just a little bit because I don't want to keep you too much longer. But when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch, you described a little bit of it. Unidentified lights in the sky, unidentified balls of lights, all that kind of stuff. Me as somebody who really doesn't know a lot about UAPs or UFOs or any of that kind of stuff, like, are you guys actually getting like spacecraft there, or is it just like, or what you think is spacecraft, or is it just like there's weird shit in the sky that we can't explain? Like, what are you guys experiencing there?
All of the above.
Okay.
So I believe it's season 2. I think we actually caught we catch a really amazing video of a UAP. Or maybe I'd even say UFO.
Okay.
The way it flies, the way we're able to analyze that video. Its capabilities are pretty amazing. And then, so again, this is kind of an anecdotal, my experience with what I saw above the ranch one day. It was a cloaked craft. And one of the crazy theories that Erik gave me is I got an injury on the ranch, very similar to this calf that in season 5, you see this calf get microwaved and it goes blind. Broad daylight. It's probably one of the only experiences I've had that made me question my involvement on the ranch because what happened to that calf. And in that instance, I'm going, you people just saw something happen to a calf real time.
Right.
That we can't explain. There was nothing in the air. It was clear, broad freaking daylight. Something hit that calf with a direct energy weapon of some sort.
As in once again, I'm a dummy. I wasn't there. So you're observing a calf in a field and all of a sudden it drops dead and you guys go to investigate it. And you're like,
so we were drilling and this calf, we have video of it from 40 minutes before when it come up to our science table and we got shoo it away with the other calves. And it starts spinning in circles and it's freaking out. I've never seen a cow do this. And all the other cows are not coming near this thing. Well, I go running down there because I'm intelligent, I guess. And I'm like 30 feet from this thing going, what is happening to this damn calf? Finally, it's able to get out of the area. We go track it down and its eyes are pure white. It's blind.
Right.
And the vet looks at it, pulls its eyes open, and you see blood behind the eyes, which is indicative of some kind of brain bleed, is what the vet said. They do the investigation, and they come out and say it's some kind of electromagnetic energy. And this ties to because, and again, I tie it back to the UAP thing because Erik, and I've had another individual reach out to me who's in the Navy who had something happen to him, and he's told me that he was basically told by his command, hey, this is what happened to you. And he told me that what happened to me, my injury, and I can send you that picture of my eye. And Erik also gave me this theory of you got hit by something and then you were able to see stuff. As crazy as that sounds and as comfortable and heartwarming that is to think about, I can't say that's true. That's actually what it was, but it is interesting to think about. But this other individual telling me that also,
right,
years apart, just makes me think. So I see and then it was 6 months later that I see the craft above the ranch. How it caught my attention was I was watching these birds fly around. We were filming, and essentially think like this object sitting in the sky, and these birds fly behind it, and it does that weird, funny mirror
Oh yeah. Okay.
elongating kind of thing, and the birds do that weird thing behind it, and I go, "What the fuck did I just see?" And I sit and study the area, and I finally make out the outline of whatever this object is. And this is where I go, it was stationary for a couple minutes. And I think when it realized I could see it is when it started moving towards the triangle area.
Right. Well, I think this idea of cloaked objects, I mean, once again, I'm not an expert, so who the fuck am I really to have an opinion on any of this stuff? But, you know, it seems like that's entirely plausible. You know, this idea that vehicles or objects in the sky can do that. Because I think people, and correct me if I'm wrong if you know, but I think people are to the point where we're at least creating like, not shields, but like, you know, like a shield you would hold that kind of makes you invisible. Not you literally, but like you're hiding behind this shield. And somehow this works, and it literally makes you invisible in the environment.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different systems that have been shown, different kind of cloaks, if you will. I know the shield concept you're talking about. And that's where I go, okay, was this some kind of technology, again, from government sources monitoring the ranch, or is this...
It's always the government.
If this is a near peer, why would you have the asset here?
Yeah.
And why would you reveal it here, of all places, in the middle of freaking nowhere? Or is this NHI? And that was the thing, is in year 2, we catch this video of this other UAP, and it's performing these maneuvers that we bring in Cameron, Brandon's brother, who's a pilot. And he goes, I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, they've shown some of these videos where they're like, I mean, they're moving at incredible speeds, just doing 90-degree turns. And it's not even just the technology that people can't explain. The one guy, you know, I forget his credentials or whatever, but essentially what he was saying is that if there was a life form in that craft, like a human being, like they would instantly die. Like, because it was going at such high speeds, and to move or change direction that quick, the human body is not made for that. And
you have to have, I'm trying to think what it's called. There's a special, it's essentially a theoretical technology, to my understanding, that you have to have that level of technology to be able to do that kind of maneuver.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're existing outside of the known physics that we're operating by.
Yeah.
And then that's where we've seen, orbs. We've got tons of videos of that. One of the things that happened to me off the ranch was I was on patrol one night, and my friend who worked with the Utah Highway Patrol at that time calls me up and goes, dude, you'll never guess what just happened. And it's still happening. I was like, well, what's going on? He's like, I am picking up something with my radar. I'm parked down here at this location, and this thing is buzzing me like Top Gun.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's buzzing the tower. It's just going back and forth. And he's like, I am catching this. It's on my front radar, then going behind my vehicle. I catch it with my back radar. When a car drives by, it stops, and I pick up the car. He knew his radar system.
Right.
And then on top of that, a second highway patrolman pulls up to talk to him. He only has a forward-facing radar. Both catch the same object.
Right.
Going the same direction, the same speed, confirming it.
So it wasn't just...
that trooper was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, so it wasn't just his equipment malfunctioning. It was verified by a second piece of equipment.
Yes. And that was in a very near location. When you look at where the ranch is, and we've heard some other information regarding some families that had some crazy stuff happening on their property, and it all lines up in this corridor, if you will. Yeah. And so that was another crazy experience where I'm very near to it, and we had some similar things happen with Cameron's helicopter, where it's radar that is basically telling you how close you are to the ground saying that there's something following him underneath the helicopter at 4,000 to 5,000 feet above the ranch.
Right.
And he would move and do a maneuver. It would go away, but then he's going on this other area and it comes back within a couple seconds. So it was like he would do a maneuver, whatever was there would then react and get back underneath him.
You know, do you think that the fact you guys are doing all these experiments is kind of making these things happen more?
Well, and so one of the theories this is where I've said this for years is, what if it is some kind of defense mechanism based on what we're doing? It's just like any country or whatever, you know, if you send something up into the air in an area that is of interest or extremely close to an asset or, you know, perceived line of, you know, property or whatever, you're going to send up a reaction to it.
Right.
So yeah, are we, and that's kind of things with the rockets, with these other experiments, we're doing, you know, we're putting thermal energy up with flamethrowers and stuff. We've used Tesla coils in the past, the 1 year.
By the way, this place just keeps sounding more and more fun, by the way.
It's been a good time. We're using all these different kinds of energy to be like, okay, will this get us a reaction? And a lot of times it does. And that's where why again, we shoot so many rockets is we have beyond probably 1,000 rocket launches at this point, showing that 60 to probably 70% of them are interacting with something or something is responding to them.
Right.
And you can go anywhere else and shoot rockets and they will not do what they're doing here.
Yeah, I've never had, and when I was in high school, I was in rocket club. I never had anything cool like that happen.
Right. And so and it's one of those circumstances and pieces of evidence that I would point to going, we are trying these different types of technology, these different types of energy sources, and we're getting readings. We're trying to track this down. And kind of to our conversation earlier is what kind of equipment do we need?
Yeah.
And that's again, I point back to Erik's Metaframe that he's created because we're trying to track things that we can't get in some of these other pieces of information collecting systems.
Yeah.
And so he had to go through and build a very unique system to help catch some of this stuff. And he's caught stuff. If you watch season 7, you're seeing us catch stuff real time with this.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know what the hell's going on out there, but it seems like there's a lot. To the point where it's almost like what do you do next? Like how, you know, we didn't even get into half of what you talked about in the beginning, you know, cryptids and all this other stuff, you know. Hell, I don't even think we talked about fucking skinwalkers on Skinwalker Ranch episode. You know, like how do you guys decide what to investigate next? Or is it just a matter of this is what's happening right now, this is where our attention goes? Like how do you choose?
We follow the data.
Yeah.
Erik has said we'll go out, do the experiment, and whatever the data shows us, that's where we go.
Right.
And so that's where it can kind of feel like we're all over the place. And at times people want us to go back and investigate more into a certain topic. But this is one of the crazy happenstances or I hate using the same word, circumstances, but we have tons of examples when we go out with an aimed goal for an experiment and it is completely derailed by a different finding that we weren't even looking for. And we're going, what? And we go investigate that next.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of that's where it feels at times that something is messing with us, redirecting us in different ways by giving us more information that's just nuts.
Right.
A prime example of this is we bring out these telescopes, big astrologists and astronomers coming out with these massive telescopes, and they have like 60, 80 years of experience between them. And the whole point was, okay, we're looking at the air above the triangle. And the idea is when these stars go through, we're going to lock onto the stars and follow them with the telescopes and see if something visual happens.
Right. Like there's an anomaly.
Showing us that there might be something there above the triangle. Well, as that experiment gets set up, they have these closed systems with thousands of stars in them, right? And you go to that telescope, put in whatever star you want to go to, and it zips over and looks at it.
Right.
Well, when we start doing this, every star that we were looking at, they'd be like, okay, we're going to follow this one. As it's going to come through the area next, he'd go to it and it was missing from the system. Something removed it from the database.
Oh, I thought you meant like something in the sky was actually like inhibiting your ability to view that star as it's moving through the sky.
Something went into this it's a system, basically a data system, a database of all the stars and all these celestial objects. And every time we chose one, it would be taken from the database.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is when they got back out to Salt Lake, it was back in the system.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do with that. Like,
right.
You know,
and so that was going on, and so we're sitting here going, well, what the heck are we going to do? This whole experiment's kind of a bust now because of this crazy stuff that's going on. And since the 1 year, I always wanted to take a laser pointer, go stand in a triangle and shoot it just straight up. And so we go out there to shoot a rocket. And I take out this laser pointer and I shoot it straight up. And that beam goes up, looks like it hit something. And then there's a section of that laser missing. And then it keeps going. And I'm like, that's not normal.
Right. Yeah.
And I can just see the look on my face as I'm doing this for a couple minutes. And I'm like, hey, Travis, come check this out. And I do it again and I hit whatever I'm going to say object. I don't know if it's an object or not, but I shoot the laser when he comes over and something split the beam.
So that, if anything, that's not normal. You know, like there's something
it's
going
like
on.
30, 40, maybe more feet in the air.
Oh, it's that close.
Going, what the hell?
See, I didn't realize it was that close. I thought you were talking maybe like a couple 100 yards up in the air or something.
It might have been. That's where it's hard to kind of judge when you're looking straight up like that.
True.
And then I'm going, what the hell? And I do it again. And we actually have a still from one of our cameras that we were using where you'll see that beam and it's bending. Something is bending the laser light.
Yeah, that's not supposed to
above
happen.
The sky of it.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen.
And we're sitting here going, what the hell? And that kind of helped us go later, go, hey, let's bring bigger lasers out. And we catch some very similar data where we're seeing this happen with massive lasers,
right?
Where sections of the laser's missing, things are interrupting the beam, all sorts of craziness.
Yeah, I go back to what I keep saying. I mean, I get it, Skinwalker Ranch, but at the same time, like, I don't get it at all. Like, you guys have just so much weird shit. I literally wouldn't even know where to start. Even the laser thing, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, what do you do with that? Like, well, okay, like what's the next step? Like, what, and by the way, it goes back to what I said before. It's like, I understand like that's just something you did and you saw the results of it, but like, okay, what does that even suggest? Like, what's the next question that needs to be answered? Well, like, where do you even go with that?
Right. And so that kind of let us go, hey, let's bring out some of these other scans, say the LIDAR scans, because instead of using like these laser cannons, let's get a system that paints the area with an infrared beam and see what happens and see if we can get more data that can point us down another track of investigation.
Right.
And then, it's why is this happening?
Yeah.
Is this a who's doing this?
Yeah.
Is this a what that's doing this? And that's, trust me, I can see why people are going, well, what's the end game?
I don't know.
We think we get an end game in mind, but then something completely freaking nuts happens and throws us all for a loop. And we're like, I don't know.
Well, well, actually it's a serious question, but even though it sounds kind of silly, you guys talk about rockets, shooting rockets into the sky, all these objects. Have you ever tried to shoot one of these things with one of your rockets?
Do what now?
Like, have you ever tried to shoot like where one of these things are that you think? Have you ever tried to like shoot it with one of your rockets?
Oh yeah.
Like, has it, what has that yielded any data or results or?
Well, well, that's where we're going again. When I point to when we shoot these rockets off this year, and you see the rockets, the parachute cord being cut. Where there's an area above what we call the triangle, where we continue to get information. And again, in tonight's episode, you're going to get information that, according to science, this is an impossibility.
Right.
But we are getting multiple drone flights of different drones pre-programmed into this certain flight. All those flights gave us the same information, showing us that data. And I think they'll probably only show that it was one flight, but it was multiple flights, all giving us the same information going. And the Sky Elements guys, they're engineers and they're scientists, Erik and Travis, with their information and knowledge, and sharing that information, to my understanding, with a few other individuals that understand this, they're all going, how did this happen?
Right. Makes no sense, but it's happening.
And people I'm already seeing comments, oh, more drones, blah, blah. And I'm like, then you don't understand what we're finding and fail to understand the significance of what will be shown.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep doing these things over and over again, because those systems, again, this is a scientific method. We're going to go out there with drones every year and do these experiments with them because of the data that we're getting from it.
Yeah. Well, if somebody wanted to watch tonight's episode, where could they find it?
History Channel. I know they're available on Amazon. I think the first 4 seasons are free on Amazon if you're a Prime member, and then you have to buy the next couple seasons.
Right.
I know Netflix, there was a couple seasons there. They're kind of scattered all over the place. That's where it's outside of my
your
control.
Yeah.
And the team's control on that.
Well, we're getting to the point where like I'm going to start feeling bad keeping you too much longer. We've almost been here 2 hours at this point. So and I feel like I'm like shit. Like I said, we didn't even talk about skinwalkers or anything, but maybe another time. But if people wanted to, that's where they could watch you. But like, do you guys have a website where you keep things, up to date, or do you guys talk about what you're doing on social media outside of the show? Like where can people keep up with what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch?
We do episode recaps on skinwalker-ranch.com. It's our insider page. That's where we as a group try to get on there every Thursday night and give people a day or two to watch the episode that comes out on Tuesday night. And we try to walk through and answer those questions that people have in the moment. And obviously we never get to them all.
Sure.
And that's why we try to do podcasts like this and give people more information and walk through, give them more of that information, of the context that might be missing from the episodes. Because again, like we did the math and you literally see less than 1%.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
We have 80 cameras all told between ranch assets, the production assets, and they're running 12 hours a day minimum. The ranch assets are running all the time. We literally have terabytes of video data, and just from a couple months of the investigation, and you're seeing 45 minutes of it.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, I know what that's like. Didn't they go, like, does somebody manually review all that? Or is it just, when we think something happens, somebody goes back and looks at it?
We do try to review in those, especially around the experiments, and try to review. We timestamp. We go to when someone notices something. And, that's a question that we have during filming is, are we just catching more phenomena when we're out there because we have 50 people and all these cameras, and is that why we're catching in these different episodes when they occur, or is it, and are they always happening?
Right.
But we just don't have the assets to catch them the rest of the year. or the eyeballs? So that's one of the questions. Or is it because we're coming out exciting the ranch with the presence of so many people, all the different experiments, the energy, and we're energizing that space, and is that why we're catching so much stuff during that short period of time? We don't know. It would take probably a really focused study over 20 years to really answer that question.
Yeah. Yay. 20 years to get an answer. Can't wait.
And that's another point that I like to bring up is when you look at a bunch of these studies that come out, they had 10 years to get the information, go through it, retest, really refine the experiment and get that information all organized and all that. We're doing these experiments, and 8 months later, the first episode comes out. So are we really given a lot of time to go through and do retests and really hammer into what we just found? No.
Yeah. Well,
and that's where the science and the production do this.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no production company in the world that'll be like, get it to us in 10 years.
Right.
It's not happening. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. Because like I said, I feel bad keeping it this long anyways.
No, you're fine.
But so, over the next, I don't know, 12 months, it just sounds like more experiments, more data collection, more just trying to figure out what's going on. That's kind of what you guys are focusing on at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, we're obviously going to be focusing on the Mesa with what we're finding inside there. We want to get in there just as bad, probably more than anybody else, but when you go through and understand the data that we're collecting during that process, it's a gold mine of data.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And then obviously with the circle and the bubble and all this other craziness that we're, recording and getting more data on, it is painting a bigger picture, and we are getting new information every year to help us understand what's going on. And so I don't know, if we'll ever get to the smoking gun.
My guess is probably not, and not for lack of trying or knowledge. It's just like you said, you uncover one thing, it leads you to another thing. You get one piece of data, it leads you to 10 more questions. That process is probably going to be going on for quite some time.
It's as frustrating as that is at times. It's also, again, it's been fun. I wouldn't trade it. It's definitely been a very unique experience, and I'm glad I'm a part of it, and I'm grateful that I'm a part of it. And and that's where I try to come on to shows like this and share what I can to maybe give people more of that complete picture.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I go. I do say be careful about where you're getting some information, because I see stuff all the time and it just pisses me off, because I'm like, these people are just spreading bullshit, and it drives me bonkers because people are believing it, and I'm going, no, especially when it comes to the ranch, and and kind of to the point of, I don't know if we'll ever get the smoking gun. It's again, we don't know. Maybe we just don't have the technology capable of really answering some of these questions yet. And because we've pointed this out with the Bigelow team, is they had the equipment they had 20 years ago. Think about the cameras that they had 20 years ago. You have a better camera on your phone
that's true.
than they were able to go get and put up as security cameras on the ranch, right? But now we have phones that can zoom in on the northern lights,
Right. Well,
and so when you talk to the Bigelow guys, I don't think it was for a lack of trying. They just were limited in their capabilities on the technology side.
Yeah.
And so what's going to come out in the next 50 years that can help us understand what we're seeing?
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot. I definitely, if I had to guess, you guys are going to make a lot of progress, and that progress is just going to lead to more questions, which is going to lead to more progress, and rinse and repeat, Well,
and we know that a lot of eyes are on the ranch, in the government and in the private sector. We have a lot of people in very unique positions that are paying attention to what we're doing and finding it fascinating. And that's what's fun, is knowing that we are driving a lot of the conversation that's been happening the last 5-6 years. Like Steven Spielberg in that movie he just came out with. disclosure day. He said he binge watched Skinwalker Ranch and got inspiration to do it.
Right.
Whether it was good or bad, I don't know. But and then there's other shows that I started watching. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm just reliving what I've experienced on the ranch.
Right.
You know, so I know we're making inroads and we're inspiring a lot of people, and that's really cool. That's been really neat.
Well, like I said, all these type of shows, whether I'm talking to, somebody from Ghost Adventures or Finding Bigfoot or Skinwalker Ranch, I think that the biggest service that you guys do to the world is, like you said, inspire people to get off their fucking couch, put the computer away, seriously, and understand there's way more to this world than we'll ever understand. Like, go out and discover some of it, whether it's a hike in the woods or staring at the skies, just something like find that curious nature again, that side of humanity that once inspired us to travel the globe to find new lands. Like, get off the fucking couch.
Well, and honestly, some of the coolest takeaways is, for me personally, the good that I try to focus on is when you're at these phenomenons or these conferences and people come up and tell you stuff. We've had the numberless people come up. Thank you. Like, we watch your show because it's the first thing I've been able to connect with my kid in the last 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care about a bunch of the other stuff people want to say. That right there,
it makes it worth it.
Is amazing. When you have teachers come up to you going, I put on certain experiments from your show because it's easy to understand. They explain it well, and the kids love it.
Yeah.
And they actually learn something.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if anything, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to question. We're trying to inspire people, and it's a part of it, and that's really fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, Kaleb. I'm glad that we ended up on such a positive note there. But no, I really appreciate you joining us, and anything you want to send over, and we'll include in the show notes. Social media, website. Get that all over to us. We'll share it with the world as well. But no, it's been great talking to you. I feel like we could, if it wasn't so fucking hot up here. By the way, what's going on with the HVAC? I thought this shit was supposed to be fixed. We're sitting in like an 83-degree room right now, like this whole time.
Me too. I'm sitting on the west side of this house, and
it's fucking bullshit. So, but yeah, I would love to have you back on the future, maybe, a couple of months from now, or, maybe, at the end of the year. Let's see what you guys are coming up with, and, give you another chance to share what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch that a lot of people aren't privy to. Correct some of that misinformation out there. So,
yeah, excited to. I'd be happy to come back on and share some more experiences and really do some deep dives in some other topics if you want. Thank you again for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, no problem, Kaleb. I really appreciate it. And until next time.
This episode was brought to you by Ghost City Tours, your guide to the haunted side of history in over 30 cities nationwide. From restless spirits to unsolved mysteries, our tours bring the dead back to life. Book now for a haunted city near you at ghostcitytours.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Ghost City Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, stay spooky.